to 19. Is that right? Or 18? 16 to 18, not 19. Okay. Huh? 19, yeah. I think it's 19. It is. It's 16 to 19 today. That's what, in the back of my memory. We have to follow the board. Whatever the board decides, we have to follow. The Governing Board of Commissioning, GBC. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshural Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupagadāmayam Tadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey. Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evata Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. What I'll do is I'll read the first 3 verses, 16 to 18. I'll read them through and then we'll chant responsively number 19. Is that okay? Ananta Vijayam Raja Kuntiputro Yudhishthiraha Nakula Sahadevascha Sugosha Manipushpakau Kashyascha Parameshvasa Shikhandi cha Maharataha Drishtajumna Viratascha Satyakishcha Parajitaha Drupado Drupadeyascha Sarvashakpati Vipate Sobhadrascha Mahabahu Shankhan Dadmu Pitak Pitak. King Yudhishthira, the son of Kunti, blew his conch shell, the Ananta Vijaya, and Nakula and Sahadev blew the Sagosha and Manipushpaka. That great archer, the king of Kashi, the great fighter, Shikhandi, Drishtajumna, Virata, the unconquerable Satyaki, Drupada, the sons of Draupadi, and the others, O king, such as the mighty-armed son of Subhadra, all blew their respective conch shells. Purport. Sanjaya informed King Dhritarashtra very tactfully that his unwise policy of deceiving the sons of Pandu and endeavouring to enthrone his own sons on the seat of the kingdom was not very laudable. The signs already clearly indicated that the whole Kuru dynasty would be killed in that great battle, beginning with the grandsire Bhishma, down to the grandsons like Abhimanyu and others, including kings from many states of the world. All were present there and all were doomed. The whole catastrophe was due to King Dhritarashtra because he encouraged the policy followed by his sons. So this is observing the armies, setting the scene for the Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God. This is the basically the beginning of the battle here, just about to begin. And it's customary that before any festival, great event, arti also, and before a great battle, that the conch shell is blown. It's not something which is exclusive to traditional Vedic culture. It was common in many parts of the world outside. Of course, they may well have got their, let's say, understanding their culture from the Vedic culture originally. But it is also an event which was common in America, South and Central America, and the Pacific Islands, different parts of the world, maybe in Asia in different places, to blow the conch shell to signal the beginning of some event. Even when there's a great war in the Western Hemisphere now, maybe not now, but in days gone by there would be a fanfare preceding the army, musical sounds. It, as I say, brings confidence. It's also meant, the blowing of the conch shell is for removing obstacles. Sometimes it's even said that it removes sinful reactions. When the conch shell is blown, blows away those sinful reactions. It's different statements are there, different circumstances maybe, but it's to create an auspicious environment. And also, of course, to inform that the arti is beginning or finishing or whatever it is. People can pay their respect or come for the event, and so on. In this particular case, of course, it's a show of might. It's indicative, as Srila Prabhupada mentions here. The blowing of the conch shells at this point was very uproarious, very loud. When we blow a conch shell, sometimes it's not so loud. Sometimes it sounds like a mouse, a squeaky mouse. Some of us have a hard time blowing the conch shell. Some of them are very hard to blow. Some of them are easier, no doubt. But these are not ordinary conch shells. Haribol. These conch shells are very special, especially the conch shells of the Pandavas. In one sense, they're as special as the Pandavas themselves. Of course, Krishna's conch shells, famous. Panchajanya are completely transcendental. And Bhima with his powerful Pondra. And here we see Yudhisthira with his Ananta Vijay, his sign of victory, his everlasting victory, so to speak. they've all got their names. These conch shells are not just ordinary matter. They are actually endowed with certain opulences, potencies, as every aspect of these type of warfares are. Their weapons, Arjuna's Gandiva bow, so on, are not just ordinary bows. They're individuals assisting or taking part in the battle. So we're going to read together the text number 19. Please repeat. Saha Koshaha Dhartarashtranam Vidayani Vyadarayat Nabaha Cha Pitivim Cha Eva Tumulaha. Interesting word, tumula. It's in English we have tumultuous. It comes from this Sanskrit word tumula. It means uproarious, tumultuous sound, a very uproarious sound. Same thing basically. Abhyanan, excuse me, it's a long word, isn't it? Abhyanunadayan. Sagoshodatarashtranam Vidayani Vyadarayat Nabascha Prativing Chaiva Tumalobhyanunadayan Sagoshodatarashtranam Vidayani Vyadarayat Nabascha Prativing Chaiva Tumalobhyanunadayan Sagoshodatarashtranam Hridayani Vyadarayat Nabascha Prativing Chaiva Tumalobhyanunadayan Sagoshodatarashtranam Vidayani Vyadarayat Nabascha Prativing Chaiva Tumalobhyanunadayan. Saha, that. Goshaha, vibration. Dhartarashtranam, of the sons of Dhritarashtra. Hridayani, hearts. Vyadarayat, shattered. Nabaha, the sky. Cha, also. Prativim, the surface of the earth. Cha, also. Eva, certainly, tumula, uproarious, abhyanun, abainu nadayam. The blowing of these, resounding. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. When Bhishma and the others on the side of Duryodhana blew their respective conch shells, there was no heart breaking on the part of the Pandavas. Such occurrences are not mentioned, but in this particular verse it is mentioned that the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra were shattered by the sounds vibrated by the Pandavas' party. This is due to the Pandavas and their confidence in Lord Krishna. One who takes shelter of the Supreme Lord has nothing to fear, even in the midst of the greatest calamity. So this last line of this purport to text number 19 is we'll try to discuss a little bit on this topic of becoming a little fearless. Srila Prabhupada himself name Abhay Charanaravinda, one who is fearless. Why is he fearless? Is not simply because of some material qualification. Sometimes up to a certain point, a person may appear to be fearless in this world, up to a point at least. But Prabhupada's fearlessness is not of that nature. A devotee's fearlessness is not because they think themselves very great, that they can conquer nature. They're not afraid of nature. They're not even afraid of death. They may be, but they're not. That's not the reason that a devotee is fearless. And they're fearless because they've taken shelter. The conclusive verse of the Bhagavad Gita, which probably most of you are familiar with, Sarvadharman Parityagya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tvam Sava Papebhyo Mokshayishyami Ma Shuchaham. The concluding is, after going through the various steps to understand the means to come to this point of surrender, is one who is surrendered at the lotus feet of the Lord, abandoning all other forms of shelter. Krishna says, just surrender unto me completely, giving up all other forms of shelter. In other words, that's anyavilasitashranam jnanakarmadhinavadam anukulena krishna shilm, is pure devotional service which has no other motivation other than pleasing the Lord ultimately. This surrender to the Supreme Lord means giving up our own individual ambitions, motivations, desires and so on for our own selfish pleasure, and abandoning that and surrendering to the will of the Lord, acting for the will of the Lord. And then Krishna says, I will protect you from all fear. There's no more need to fear. I will deliver you from all sinful reactions. There's no more need to fear. Sinful reactions are a very interesting topic, in a sense. It's even our particular bodily identification, our bodily attachments. Of course, they're born of ignorance of identity, we could say. But in this material world, once the jiva has expressed his independent desire to exist in a separate state of consciousness from the Lord, and being placed under the influence of the material energy, bewildered by Maya, covered by ignorance, and identifying with whatever situation one finds oneself in as being the reality, more or less. It's the cause of fear, and that situation creates reaction with the material nature, causing various, say, karma. And that develops into various future. We're being molded, basically. Our consciousness is being molded by the circumstances and how we relate to them. So we develop various tendencies and various attachments and desires in this world. And that carries us into future bodies, karma, and carries us into those future bodies, one after the next. And the nature of this world is that we identify with it, and naturally, when we identify with something, the fear is there. The fear is practically all pervasive, even up to the heavenly planets. There is fear can be there, although most of the time it may not be seemingly very manifest. It's there, because even in the heavenly planets, death, ultimately death will be there. Abhama bhuvana lokapana vartinarjuna. Right, from the lowest to the highest, everywhere in this material world is a place of suffering, wherein repeated birth and death take place. And generally speaking, nobody wants to die. Death is practically without exception. I say practically, maybe there are some persons, for whatever reason, may not be expressing it, at least at the moment. But practically speaking, everyone's afraid of death. Nobody wants to die. We make so many efforts to avoid death. So much energy is there because we don't want to die. It's unnatural for the soul to experience this death. And no matter what we take shelter of in this world, like the sons of Dhritarashtra, we're not taking shelter of Krishna. Yes, so of course there's many other ways of looking at it. I mean, they're not ordinary living entities in one sense either, but in a sense they're just identifying with their situation, attached to their position and afraid of losing their position. They're doing everything they can to maintain their position. Because the living entities are very insecure, naturally, in this world. We don't really belong here. But because of ignorance, we think we do, and naturally we're insecure, so that fear is always there. But when someone's rightly situated in knowledge, then fear doesn't, let's say, even if it's there, it doesn't affect you. It's not something which will drive one's, let's say, response. Fear is described, we can see, if we look in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, in the first verse of the 11th chapter, if you want to have a look. 11th chapter, Universal Form. There's a few places where Krishna discusses, directly speaking, the whole Bhagavad Gita is to remove Arjuna's fear. Doubts, fear, ignorance, they're all related. Universal form, not the first verse. 10th verse. Excuse me, not 16th, 16th chapter. Beginning of the 16th chapter. There Krishna talks about fearlessness. I can't read it very well. My eyesight's bad with this light. It's very dull. I'll do my best. Can you see it there? Fearlessness, huh? Huh? 16:1. Sorry, I mistakenly said the 11th chapter. It was my fault. But you see there, in the 16th chapter, the first verse 1. No, 1 to 3 or something, is it? Huh? 1 to 3, yeah. 1 to 3, there we go, yeah. Abhayam, is that right? I'm struggling with the light here. Abhayam, fearlessness. It's mentioned here, the word fearless. And where does Prabhupada describe it in the purport? Can you see it in the purport there? What page? Pardon? Fourth paragraph in the Varnashram system.
About 6 lines down. For a sannyasi, the first qualification.
Oh, that's where it's. Oh, yeah, okay. The first qualification should be fearlessness, because a sannyasi has to be alone, without any support or guarantee of support. He has simply to depend on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one thinks after I leave my connections, who will protect me, he should not accept the renounced order of life. One must be fully convinced that Krishna, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his localized aspect of Paramatma, is always within, that he is seeing everything, and he always knows what one intends to do. One must thus have firm conviction that Krishna as Paramatma will take care of a soul surrendered to him. I shall never be alone, one should think. Even if I live in the darkest regions of a forest, I shall be accompanied by Krishna, and he will give me all protection. That conviction is called abhayam, fearlessness. This state of mind is necessary for a person in the renounced order of life. Of course, in one sense, it's there for all of us, aspiring devotees, to take shelter of Krishna. It's not just for one who's officially taken the order of sannyas, but it's the opportunity for all of us. The real sannyas is not an order of the Varna ashram, it's the state of one's consciousness, inner consciousness, to be completely dependent, or to become dependent upon Krishna. As Prabhupada, Abhay Charanaravinda, one who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. They are the safe boat to cross over this ocean. Now when you're in an ocean and you're struggling, then a big boat comes along, you get in, you feel kind of safe. You may be, you may not be, but you feel like that. But if like a boat comes along with holes in it, the boatman is like half dead and sinking, you don't feel very fearless. It's not much use. And so Krishna is that safe boat, that rock. We have to take shelter of Krishna. There's no other shelter. We may look here, we may look there. We may try this, we may try that. Even, of course, not that we shouldn't try. We have to do our duty. The sickness or whatever it is that comes its way in this material world, we have to do the needful as much as practical. But ultimately we take shelter of Krishna. And that's the instruction of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. In all your activities depend upon me. fight and be conscious of me. And that's the way we cross over this dangerous ocean. So Master T.A. Padapalava Plavam Mahatpadam Punya Yashomarare Pavambadi Vatsa Param 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 Yad Vibadam Natesham. This material world is danger. Every step. There is every step of our lives. We may not be aware of it, but there is danger. Any moment, anything can happen. So only a devotee, one who's taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, is, say, not affected or not overcome by this fear or anxiety within this material world. So this fearlessness in the verse, Krishna says, belong to the godly man endowed with divine nature. So if we follow one who's fearless, just like a child on his own, you see little children, they're very fearful. If they're alone, usually, they're lost. And when the parent, even if someone else comes along, oftentimes it doesn't satisfy their fear. Only when their parent, mother, father, comes along, may they be appeased, usually. And their ignorance or their fear is removed. So similarly, when we take shelter of the fearless, in our case, we try to take shelter of one who's abhay. Bhaya is fear. Abhaya is fearless. We try to take shelter of one who is fearless. Srila Prabhupada is fearless. We can see that. This is the 50th anniversary this year of his coming to the Western world. Quite something. It's a very interesting year. This is also the 500, right now, exactly at this moment. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was here in Braj, in Vrindavan, 500 years ago. He also came. Prabhupada describes it as the greatest act of welfare, of charity, is to release one of fear. If you can relieve somebody of fear, nothing to fear, don't worry. People will say this all the time, don't worry, don't be afraid. You know, the problem is the cause of fear is still there. Just the living end is described by Narada Muni in the conversation with King Prachanibarhishat, how the living end is like a deer in the forest and very busily absorbed in trying to enjoy the sweet grasses, always looking for nice tasty grass, diving into it, just like people, they drink, forget their anxiety, they watch the television and get lost watching the television or something on the internet or something or another. They get absorbed in various types of intoxications and sense gratification. They become almost dull, like a person who's takes a painkiller is not aware of the disease condition practically, are they? Not supposed to be, you can't feel it. Maybe the other symptoms are there, but it's to be, so you don't feel it. That's the idea. A drug addict takes a drug, doesn't feel whatever he's feeling, that pressure. But the problem is still there. The problem hasn't been removed. The root problem, it may be even worse, like pouring paraffin on a fire, may initially satisfy it, but after a while the fire burns even more. It doesn't put the fire out. The real problem is this ignorance of identity, and this idea that I am this body and this is mine and I'm the enjoyer. That's the cause of the problem in the material world. The real cause of the problem is our forgetfulness of Krishna. It's remembrance of Krishna which removes the fear. Even if we understand I'm not this body, which isn't easy to understand, or understand theoretically maybe we accept, but realistically. But even if one has realized that I'm not this body, without taking shelter of Krishna, one has no shelter. There has to be a shelter. We're to touch the Shakti. Yeah. We're coming, yes, from Chit Shakti, but our nature is to touch the Shakti. We're marginal. The marginal energy always has to be under shelter. We're Prakriti, in another sense, Prakriti, nature. The nature has to always be under shelter, under Purush. When we're in the material world, the same thing. We're looking for shelter, somewhere or another. We expect the police to shelter us, the nation to shelter us, maybe our family when we're children to shelter us, some powerful person to give us shelter. We're looking shelter somewhere or another, or we get shelter from absorbing ourselves, as we mentioned just now, in some kind of intoxicating activity. But everyone's looking for shelter to relieve them from a dangerous or anxiety or the danger of fear in this world. But ultimately it's atma sanyasva satsvapi deya kalatradishu deya patya kalatradishu atma sanyasva satsvapi, that these are fallible soldiers. The army of Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana, was fallible. Everything in this world is fallible. It means able to fall. A simple word. Fallible. Whereas Arjuna and the Pandavas' army were infallible, not because materially speaking they were infallible. Everything material is subject to destruction. It's not infallible in the sense of in its particular form. But because they have taken shelter of Krishna. Even Sanjaya, over and over, you read in the Mahabharata how he was getting on Dhritarashtra's case, after, what's his name? Jayadratha had been killed by the arrangements of, what's his name? Sikandi or whatever it was. How he was killed, Drishtadhyumna or whoever, how he was killed there, Arjuna. And at that point, Sanjaya said, the only hope now, there's no hope for your army now. Absolutely no hope. But Dhritarashtra wouldn't budge, he wouldn't give in. He knew that he was on the loser, but he couldn't give up. Sometimes we knew we were a loser, but this false ego, this, is so strong, this pride is so strong, we can't give it up, even if we're going to lose. I'd rather lose than, give up, surrender. In one sense, materially it's seen as a noble act, but in absolute reality this is foolishness. We're definitely going to lose. So surrender. But those who are full of false pride, they will not surrender. So this fearlessness is really something which is ultimately only something if we've taken shelter of that which is beyond the cause of fear, beyond ignorance. Fearfulness is removed by absolute knowledge, not by just relative knowledge. That may have some relative effect, you could say, on our situation. Not absolute, because ultimately everything in this material is subject to destruction. There are many other references in the Bhagavad Gita. We could look at the 11th chapter, text number 32. Very interesting verses spoken by Arjuna, I think, by Krishna. Now it's Arjuna speaking now, and then after Arjuna finishes speaking, Krishna speaks. Text 32 onwards. 11th chapter. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Time I am, the great destroyer of the worlds, and I have come here to destroy all people. With the exceptions of you, the Pandavas, all the soldiers here on both sides will be slain." Everyone's destined to die. Just confirmation. I remember in the 80s, and some of you may remember also, 70s, 80s, there was great fear of atomic or nuclear war everywhere in the Western world. I don't know how it was in America, but in England, everywhere you look, you see posters. What to do when the bomb goes off. Not if, when. People were paranoid. People were buying all kinds of anti-radiation suits and bomb shelters, and you name it. It was a big business going on. They were showing movies of, what happens when the bomb goes off. In America they showed Kansas City. In England they showed Sheffield blowing up with nuclear bombs. And what to do or what not to do. And, the bottom line of it was, this is a fact, they used to put these posters up. And it sounds a bit corny, but it was a fact. What to do when the bomb goes off. People were paranoid. I don't know how it was in America, but in England they were like that. All over England were American nuclear Air Force bases all over England, aimed at Russia. And the same thing was there in the Eastern Bloc, aimed at England and Western Europe, and to America also, a bit further away. And it said that what to do if the bomb goes off. It said, just like in the airplanes, you're sat in an airplane. I don't know if probably none of you have experienced an airplane crash, I doubt it. Most people don't live to tell the story. It's one of those things, God knows what it's like. But like that they say, if in case of emergency, you put your head down like this, hold your hands, close your eyes, and whatever it is you're supposed to do, it don't make no difference really. But anyway, they do these things. I don't know if it reduce the fear. I don't know what it does. But anyway, it said, put your head between your legs. This is what it said. It says in the posters. It said, you're supposed to get down under the table or something, put your head between your legs, and kiss your ass goodbye. And that's what the posters said. All over England, they had these posters. Unbelievable. I mean, it's kind of crude, but it's ridiculous, What can you do? You can't stop death. He's come to destroy all people. This way, when Prabhupada was in Calcutta during the Second World War, bombs were going off. Everyone's leaving Calcutta. Prabhupada didn't leave. He was there eating his kachoras. And he said, I'm not going to leave. Because he was seeing this as another form of Krishna. He's just seeing it like the universal form. People have a hard time understanding this because they're in ignorance. No matter what you did, try to justify these things from the material perspective is a never-ending task. Unless one understands the actual purpose of human life, is not to try to fight against nature, is not to try to become, protect ourselves against nature. People try to protect themselves against death. You can't protect yourself against death. When death comes, it's inevitable. There are so many different stories. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj tells so many stories, different, interesting stories of people who try to protect themselves against death, but you can't protect yourself. There's like this one guy who was down the market. He was a servant. I think he was in Kabul or somewhere. He was a servant of some master there. Master sent him to the marketplace to get some subjis. When he was down there, he saw death personified. He became scared stiff. He saw death personified right in front of him. Ah! He ran back to his master. Help, help, I want to get out of here. Death personified here chasing me. Let me get out. The master said, what are you talking about? And he explained what happened. So the master gave him a very fast set of horses, and off he went to Kandahar, fast as he could, racing away to Kandahar to try to escape from death. And meanwhile, the master went down to the marketplace to find out what was going on. Where's this death personified? He looked around, couldn't see anything. Eventually he found this in the corner. He saw this, it looks like death personified over there. So he started talking. He said, are you death personified? Yeah. Well, why did you terrify my servant this morning? And death personified said, well, I was really surprised to see him here today in Kabul, because I have an appointment this afternoon with him in Kandahar. You can't escape. There's so many stories. Another interesting story about this brilliant sculptor. He thought he could overcome death. Yamaraj, the Yamadutas. So he was brilliant. He made so many identical forms of himself out of whatever, clay or whatever. They looked so much like him, nobody could tell the difference. And he just stood in amongst them. And there he was, and death was coming. Just a story, I suppose. He was stood there. So the Yamadutas came, and they saw, because they have a picture, this is like the police, they have an ID picture. They came, they saw, wait, hey, which one is he? Hey, they all look the same. Which one's there? What are we going to do? They know which one to take. There's dozens of them lined up there. And then the head of the Yamadutas, he was very clever. He said, whoever made these models is a lousy sculptor. Useless. What do you mean I'm a useless sculptor? He immediately spoke up in pride, Got him. You can't escape when the time comes. The nature of this world. So the time had crept up on all these soldiers. Krishna's purpose, of course, was to be served to remove all the burdensome leaders, rulers of the world. This was one of the ways he did it, but it's not just get rid of them, he's actually delivering them. And without spiritual knowledge, we can't understand that. This is not just like some ordinary battle between, one set of rascals and another set of rascals. But this is actually, and behind it all, of course, is the message of the Bhagavad Gita to help us all to become fearless. This message, this truth, this knowledge, which will help us to get off of this platform, of the material platform of pride and bodily identification, and start to identify ourselves as servants of Krishna. Start to identify ourselves as Krishna's parts and parcels. This is how we can get free of fear. So Krishna says, therefore get up, prepare to fight and win glory. Conquer your enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement. You, O Sabyasachi, can be but an instrument in the fight. Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, and the other great warriors have already been destroyed by me. Therefore kill them and do not be disturbed. Simply fight, and you will vanquish your enemies in the battle. So then Arjuna spoke. Very interesting word. He was fearfully speaking. I mean, you can imagine having seen this tremendous form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, overwhelming form, and there's a good reason for that. Sometimes great things, huge mountains, when we're faced with the ocean, we become fearful, and it's quite often in that situation, even atheistic people who say, I don't believe in a supreme, they sometimes, almost without thinking, they cry out, God save me, or something like that. Some little bit of it, sometimes it happens like that. So Arjuna then said, O master of the senses, the world becomes joyful upon hearing your name, and thus everyone becomes attached to you. Although the perfected beings offer you their respectful homage, the demons are afraid, and they flee here and there. All this is rightly done. So when they hear that name of Krishna, upon hearing your name, everyone can become joyful. You become fearless. It is a beautiful verse. I can't remember it. Some of you may know it. I'll read it. I've got it here somewhere. It's in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. I think it's the first chapter, text 14 or something. Apanak sangsriting ghoram yan nama vivashogrinan tatak sadyo vimucheta yad bibeti svayam vayam. Living beings who are entangled in the complicated meshes of birth and death can be freed immediately by even unconsciously chanting the holy names of Krishna, who is feared by fear personified. So this is, when we're faced with these dangers, which we all are at every moment, really, whether it's so clearly obvious or not, but it is there, samasriti ye padapalavam, at every step of our lives, danger is there, and we should try to take shelter of the chanting of the holy names. This will both help us to become, of course, purified ignorance, and also fearless and satisfied, freed of anxiety. So many side effects may be there, but ultimately is to connect us with Krishna. We can also see in the 10th chapter, text number 4 and 5, there Krishna describes various qualities of living beings in this world, which are created by him. 10th chapter, text 4 and 5. And there you can see fear and fearlessness are also mentioned. And if you look at the bottom of page 451, well, I may be a different page in different books, I don't know, but it's like, I don't know how to read. 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe the 5th paragraph of the purport of the 4th verse of the 10th chapter. There Prabhupada says, fear is due to worrying about the future. Interesting. A person in Krishna consciousness has no fear, because by his activities he's sure to go back to the spiritual sky. Got nothing to lose. You're only fearful if you've got something to lose. You know, people are afraid of losing things. And that's why we protect things. Put up locks and lock doors and build walls and have dogs barking and all sorts of machines, this is to get in, and police forces, and so many things. We're all afraid of losing our property, losing whatever it is, our body and so on. We're always trying to protect it. But when we realize we have, not that we shouldn't do that either, because it belongs to Krishna, we should look after it, but on our own account, there's nothing really to be afraid of. Oh, time flies. Therefore the future is very bright. Others, however, do not know what their future holds. They have no knowledge of what the next life holds. So they are therefore in constant anxiety. If we want to get free of anxiety, the best course is to understand Krishna and be situated always in Krishna consciousness. In that way we will be free from all fear. And there's a famous verse here in the 11th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam 2:37. It's stated, Bhayam dviti tayabi veshataha syat. Fear is caused by our absorption in the illusory energy. But those who are free from the illusory energy, those who are confident that they are not the material body, that they are spiritually parts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who are therefore engaged in the transcendental service of the Supreme Lord, have nothing to fear. Their future is very bright. This fear is a condition of persons who are not in Krishna consciousness. Abhayam, fearlessness, is possible only for one in Krishna consciousness, because everything else, even up to the point of personal liberation, is actually an unnatural situation for the soul. It's not the permanent station for the soul, even in impersonal Brahman, eventually, because the nature of the living entity, conscious living entity, is having desire, and there's no means of fulfilling that on that platform of existence. So eventually the living entity, yenyeva vindaksha anartamanina, comes back again to this material world to try to enjoy or try to fulfill his innate desire for satisfaction, nandamoya vyasati. We're pleasure-seeking. So that can only be completely fulfilled when we're connected, reconnected with the Supreme, just like a child reconnected with his father or mother, a part of the body reconnected with the body. That is the process of devotional service. There's a teaching of Bhagavad Gita, how to reconnect with Krishna, no matter who we are. And then one can become fearless, because one takes shelter with the lotus feet of Krishna at every step. And that's the only platform. And the Pandavas, Arjuna, and the Pandavas were taking shelter, particularly Arjuna, of the lotus feet of Krishna. And therefore they're also fully confident. They had no fear, like a little child, even though he may not be very strong. When he's with his father, he thinks his father is like infallible, basically. So he has no fear, he feels confident. Little tiny dogs sometimes, when they're with their master, is like barking away there as if he's, able to take on the universe or something. And so like that, if we take shelter of Srila Prabhupada, of Krishna, the holy name, we can also become fearless, and our lives will become successful. Well, we were going to sing a song, but time has expired. 6 o'clock we finish, right? Thereabouts. Give or take a minute or two. Vrindavan time. Timeless world. But still we have service to render. So are there any questions or comments?
There's also that verse, Bhaktaram.
Pardon?
Along with these other verses, for fearlessness is Bhaktaram.
Yes. Bhaktaram tapasam sarvaloka maheshram suridam sarvabhutanam yatmamam shantim vachiti. There are probably many verses, I would imagine, if we look carefully in Bhagavad Gita, which are related, and Bhagavatam is full of it, of devotees taking shelter of Lord Nrsingadev. Prahlad Maharaj was fearless because he was afraid of falling into the material energy, being born in an Asuric family, but he wasn't. Otherwise he had no fear, because he was felt protected by Lord Nrsingadev. It's said that even when Lord Nrsingadev came along, or let's say when Hiranyakashipu threatened to sever his head with his sword, and he said, "Is your God, is he in this pillar?" Pretty challenging statement, you could say. My word, it's like all or nothing. Prahlad Maharaj was very confident that his God was in the pillar. He wasn't afraid. Because it's even today, I'm not sure, Harivam, somewhere it describes that Lord Nrsingadev was actually behind the pillar, and just to reassure Prahlad, he was popping his head out. Hiranyakashipu couldn't see it because he had his back to the pillar. Prahlad could actually see Lord Nrsingadev poking his head out from behind the pillar. Don't worry, I'm here. I am here. Don't worry. Yeah, whether he can see or not see, there's always has full confidence that Krishna will protect him. Mare Krishna Rakeke, Rake Krishna Mareke, that if Krishna wants to kill, then no one can protect, and if Krishna wants to protect, no one can kill. But for a devotee, he doesn't mind whatever you want to do with me, because he's Narayana Paraksavi, Nakutaschana Bibhyati, one who's Narayana Parayana, who's completely taken shelter of the Supreme Lord, doesn't fear going to heaven or hell. He has nothing to fear, because he knows that Krishna is with him always. And for him, that's the perfection, to always feel Krishna's presence. He's not demanding, place me here or there. He just wants to always feel the protection. It's a sign of Saranagati, surrender, to always be under the shelter of Krishna. So there's so many things. Om Namo Bhagavate Narashinga Namastejas Tejasaya Viri Vibhava Vajunaka Vajadanksha Karmashan Vandaya Vandaya Tamo Grasa Grasa Om Shvaha Abhayam Abhayam Atmani Bhuisht Om Shram. Prahlad Maharaj prays, the resonance of Hari Varsh to Lord Nrsingadev. With your fearful nails and teeth like thunderbolts, please tear out all my material desires. As long as we've got these material desires and these material concepts, there's going to be fear, We think I've got to satisfy them sometimes. That's how I'm going to relieve my anxiety. But to some extent, we can't go from there to the perfect stage, but we have to understand that that's not going to fully satisfy the soul. This endeavor to satisfy our material senses like that. There's ways of regulating it so we can gradually become freed of fear and attachment and so on. But in of itself, that's not the goal. Lord Prahlad Maharaj is saying, please tear them out with your sharp nails, tear all these material attachments out of my heart, so that I can become fearless in this struggle for a material existence. Because he was taking shelter of Lord Nrsingadev, we can take shelter of the holy name. So whenever there's a danger, it's a great opportunity. Incentive. An incentive. What for? When there's danger, to run away, get scared. No, it's in chant. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. A reminder, instead of saying, ow, damn it, oh, ha, whatever reactions come out of us, we break our finger or whatever we do, crush our finger in the door or something happens, whatever negative thing. Try to practice. If we practice in so-called normal circumstances, it'll be easier in dangerous situations. Automatically, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. Take shelter of the holy name, which is not different than Krishna. It means taking shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. And by taking shelter of the holy name, we may become fearless. You like this song here, Govinda Das, Bhaja Hare Mana. You can sing this little song, it's very short. You got it there? Madung. Bhaja Hare Mana, Shri Nandanandana. Literally, many of us were very fearful. He ignited fearlessness. You could challenge the world. You weren't afraid of anyone. You could go up to anyone, wasn't it? Practically anyone. You didn't care who they were. Presidents, whoever they were, and just fearlessly preach, practically speaking. Probably injected that in people. Totally fearless, because he's taking shelter of Krishna. All these so-called identities are just dreams. We're afraid of a dream. We're afraid of the reflection. It's not a reality. It's a reality in the sense of its original substance is a reality, and the energy is a creation of the Lord, so it's his energy, but the form which we're perceiving is just a reflection. It's an illusion. It's not the real form. Just a temporary reflection of the real form. It's there, but it's just like a reflection on a mirror. And we're afraid of it. Why be afraid of a reflection on a mirror? What's it going to do to us? If you identify it, you get scared. You run away. Sometimes maybe some lower species, maybe they see something, a picture of something or a reflection, so they get afraid and run away. Think it's a real thing. We're the same thing. We think, we're more advanced. We're not. We're afraid of this material energy. We're afraid of death. We're afraid of other living entities. We're afraid of God. It can be favorable. Fear can be used. It can be a favor, as we mentioned briefly earlier. It can turn people to a little bit of God consciousness sometimes. There is an element in many scriptures of fear for that very purpose. It's not just meant to make it out like everything's fear, exactly, but it's to help us to remember that there is no other shelter. And otherwise we have to experience the never-ending happiness and distress of this world. The illusion, stay in the dream. But we can get out of it. Oh mind, and this is the way you get out of it. Just worship the lotus feet of the son of Nanda, which make one fearless. Worship his lotus feet. Means worship it, follow his instructions, that's what it means. Having obtained this rare human birth, cross over the ocean of worldly existence, through the association of saintly persons. Both in the day and night I remain sleepless. Have you got the translation here? Is it coming up?
Yes.
Okay. Suffering the pains of the heat and cold, the wind and the rain, for a fraction of flickering happiness I've uselessly served wicked and miserly men. We're all serving all the time, serving this one, serving that one, serving ourselves. And what's the result? There's no beneficial result. I've uselessly served wicked and miserly men. What assurance of real happiness is there in all of one's wealth, youthfulness, sons and family members? They're all flickering. They're atmasanyastvasatsvapi. They're just fallible soldiers. As Prabhupada writes in one of his poems, it is a Viraha Ashtakam or something, they're just like, where are they all now? They're just a list of names. My mother, my brothers, my family members, my friends. Where are they all? They're just like bubbles on the surf, on the ocean. They're gone. Where are they now? People are afraid of losing all these things. But it's inevitable. And because people are in ignorance, they don't know what else to do. And even if they're told, they don't want to usually. This life, tottering like a drop of water on a lotus petal. Therefore you should always serve and worship the divine feet of Lord Hari. It is the desire and great longing of Govindadas to engage himself in the 9 processes of bhakti, namely hearing the glories of Lord Hari and chanting those glories, constantly remembering him and offering prayers to him, serving the Lord's lotus feet, serving the Supreme Lord as a servant, serving him as a friend, and completely offering the Lord one's very self. It's like Prabhupada. I would really recommend everybody to, if you get time sometimes, to reflect on Srila Prabhupada's poems, which are there, they're available. There are so many poems. Prabhupada wrote 6 or more poems, which are available. To take advantage of those opportunities to associate with that mood of surrender of Srila Prabhupada, his mission, his mood, which he expresses in these various poems so nicely. Especially in Markandeya Bhagavat Dharma, his complete dependence upon Krishna. Completely dependent, fearless, without any false ego, without any idea that I'm going there to conquer anything. Nothing, just completely depend on Krishna. Whatever you want, my Lord, I am yours. So one who places himself in that situation, Krishna completely releases from all anxiety and distress, and provides everything, whatever the devotee, such a devotee needs. The Lord ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana pariyupasati. The Lord provides everything that such a surrendered soul needs, preserves what they have and provides what they lack. He protects that devotee. And as Mother Parvati said, one becomes freed of all the sufferings, the miseries of material existence if we understand this position of Krishna as a Supreme Lord. In our case, in Arjuna's case, to Arjuna, Krishna was just his best friend. There's a more elevated platform of devotion. So are there any questions or comments? And these bhajans too are full of we can say the nectar of the pure devotees, giving us their shelter and giving us directions how we can take shelter of the Lord, how we can actually become fearless. Hey, whoa. Is it working? Is it working?
Prabhupada, I think, said that we were not. Okay, like this. I think that Prabhupada said we were not afraid enough of Maya.
Yes, that statement is quite a familiar statement. I don't know, I can't give you the reference exactly. Maybe you can remember where it was said and to who. The point which Mother Janava is making is that she's heard that Prabhupada said that the problem is we're not afraid of Maya, or we're not sufficiently afraid of Maya. And this is actually a problem. And I can't remember, I don't even know where exactly that was stated by Prabhupada, but it's certainly something which has been regularly, let's say, spoken over the years. Pardon? The what? Narada Muni? Garga Muni, yeah, it was to him, or he may know. He's got the reference. Huh? He's outside, is he? Well, you'll probably find it somewhere, in maybe Garga Muni Prabhupada knows where it is, exactly where Prabhupada said that, but it is a fact, whether it is whether the reference point is there or not, but it is. I mean, what does it mean? Is that a question or just a kind of a comment? Uh-huh. So, yes. Well, what is Maya? What is Maya? What is Maya?
Which makes us forget Krishna.
Pardon?
Which makes us
Yeah, the energy which makes us forget Krishna. But what else can we say about Maya? The energy which takes us away, Mahamaya, takes us away from Krishna. What else can you say about Maya? There's a whole book written by Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj. I haven't read it, but it's called Maya. Maybe it's described in there. It's a whole book of it, quite not that thick, maybe a couple of 100 pages, all about Maya. Maybe you should read it and find out more from that. But what else can you say about Maya? Huh? She's nice, huh? Oh yeah, she's a servant of Krishna. So if I serve Maya, I'll be a servant of Krishna too, huh? She's a servant of Krishna. She is indeed a servant of Krishna. Good. Yes.
One of the reasons she is so much stronger than us is because she's one of Krishna's energies.
Yes, she's one of Krishna's divine energy. Daivi yeshu ganame mama maya darachaya. Ameva ye papajante mayamitam tarantite. Krishna has a divine energy. All Krishna's energies are divine. It's just a matter of, say, how we relate to them. But she has this potency of covering the living entities who are averse to Krishna. That's her job. And so what happens is, what does Maya mean? Usually Prabhupada said, what does Maya mean? Illusion, that which is not. It causes us to identify with that which is not, the reflection. So we're still attached to that reflection. We're not, we're still attracted to that. What else does Maya you can say? Say something else about Maya. Huh? Sadhu? Sadhu? Pardon? Shadow. I thought it said sadhu. 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 Yes, sadhu. Certainly, very good. Yes, she's a shadow. We're taking a shadow of the shadow, These are kind of, you can say, descriptions. But what does it mean that we're not afraid of Maya? What is that Maya? How does that Maya, let's say, act upon us? Or what is it that, how does it interact? What is it? We have, all these false identities, attachments which we have, different desires in our minds, different things around us, different objects of the senses and so on. When we see, sometimes when we're not afraid, and what does that mean to be afraid? It doesn't mean, not that kind of fear. Ooh, this beautiful girl, I'm running away. This is a man, get away, oh no, help. Not like that, Not that kind of, because everything's like that. You'll be constantly petrified by everything in this world, practically speaking. Not that kind of fear, but the fear that, it's not that the fear of the thing so much, but the fear of the desire of wanting to enjoy it. The Maya is the Maya, it reflects the Maya is that we want to enjoy it, that we think that that's mine, or I can enjoy this object, or this activity, or this person, or my senses, or whatever. That's kind of Maya, if we think we can enjoy these, because this is the property of Krishna. It's Maya to think it's mine, and it's Maya to think it's mine, therefore I can enjoy it. I don't know, if I think carefully I'll probably remember what it was. It's in India, and somebody, I don't know how I saw it, but it came up somewhere. Somebody was beaten to death because they ate beef, somewhere in UP. And they said, what right as a person, has anyone got to say what I put on my dinner table? That was the defense. No one has a right to tell me what I'm allowed to put on my dinner table. This is called Maya. We think it's my right, my dinner, my table, my pleasure. This is Maya. This is the illusion. My Yahoo, my Yahoo. Maya, Yahoo? Maya, when you come up it comes Maya who. My Yahoo, my Yahoo, Maya who, you. It's to put you in Maya. And Google is go ogle. Go ogle. Ogle? They're captivated by the objects of sense. And that's all they're doing. They're trying to capture Maya. These are Maya's medias to attract our attention. We can use them in Krishna's service, by the way, very nicely too. But it's easy to get captured by the material energy. We've got to be very careful. It's like television. Tell lie vision. Tell a lie vision. It's all lies. It's all just bewildering, our consciousness. We become attached to it. The fear of this. This is the devotee is afraid of that becoming attracted to the objects of the senses. It's not that the objects themselves are therefore to be condemned, banned, run away from, whatever it is, destroyed. No, the fear is our false identity. Maya, there's false identity with the objects, and we're not sufficiently afraid of that. I'm not saying you or anyone else isn't, but this is what is being referred to, that we're still thinking that I can enjoy this material world separately from Krishna. One way or another, subtly, by name, fame, prestige, honor, and so on, grossly by sense gratification of the gross nature, different levels. But we still have this idea that I am the enjoyer. That's the fear. And there's the verse which Mother Parvati mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita in the 5th chapter, that's 29. Bhuktaram yagatapasam. This is the peace form. This is the key verse in this sense, to understand that everything is the property of Krishna. We forget that. And you can see that when sometimes we can just see how much we're attached sometimes. Of course, we may be in the mood of thinking that there's a fear there of, like Prabhupada, for instance, he said that he's very afraid that the demons may act in such a way as to impede this movement or stop this movement. He talks like this on several occasions, that he's afraid. But that's not for his sense gratification, that's for the service of his spiritual master. It's different. It's for the service of Lord Chaitanya. That type of fear brings one closer, more under the shelter of Krishna.
He was more worried about it being destroyed within rather than without.
Yeah, that's also very much so. Destroyed from within. He spoke about both, actually. He speaks about both. Pardon?
By not keeping.
Yeah. Following the standard.
To the method.
Yeah, not following the standards, especially amongst the leaders. Prabhupada talked about that. He was very afraid that would happen, and there will be rifts and so on and so forth within us. That's the greatest danger, you could say. And we should be, in a sense, afraid of that happening and do what we have to do to avoid that. But these things do go on. The influence of our Maya, our illusion, goes on and influences these situations. And from outside also, he said he was afraid that the demons would also stop this movement from progressing. So both are there. So that type of fear is another thing altogether. But this fear of not getting what I want, someone getting in my way, not getting, being, or the fear of being exposed is another one. We don't want to be exposed. We want to hide our inner anartas and sometimes. But, not that we have to go around with, flags up saying, I am this and I am that. These are all of my anartas. Stone me to death. Whatever it is you want to do because of this. Not that we have to go around like that, but at the same time we shouldn't be hiding. You have to put them out. You don't put your dirty linen out to show everybody, but we have to be willing to reveal our hearts in confidence at least. To clear out these causes of fear, these false identities, whatever they may be. They're just, clouds blocking our taking shelter of Krishna. We're still holding on to them sometimes. My old friends. They're my old, but I've been here so long, you can't just let go of me like this. We've been friends for a lifetime. Oh, I'm really your good friend. Don't you remember those wonderful times we had 50 years ago? You get all these temptations coming in, this and that, And, sometimes we fall. But we're not sufficiently afraid. These dangers are there. Immediately, thank you. Thank you for reminding me. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When they come along, you can just realize, that's Krishna's actually, in a sense, these desires are coming in, and Krishna is giving me this opportunity to remember him now, because this is dangerous. Otherwise I'm going to go wandering down memory lane with these feelings and these thoughts and these desires and whatever it is, and I'll be lost. So you have to be careful. And we're not sufficiently aware of the result of that, I could say. If we were more aware of it, we might be a little bit more conscious not to embrace these various desires or objects of the senses like we may do sometimes. Well, that has to be replaced by Vishavya Nivartanteni Raharasya Dena, by experiencing Param Drishtva Nivartate, by experiencing a higher taste. We have to get that. That's why the emphasis is placed in this song by Govindadas. Hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping. Tasmade kena manasa bhagavan sattvatam pati shrotavya kititavyasya dhyaya pujasya nityada. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, remember, and worship the personality of God, who is the protector and friend of the devotees. So we have to practice that at least. We can't do it all entirely. Yoda nijasana yukta karma gantinabandan chindanti kovidas tasa kona kurikatavati. To cut this bondage or this attachment to this karma bandhana in this material world, one has to remember the personality of Godhead. We have to practice, that's all, in the association of devotees, as much as we can, remembering Krishna in different ways. And that's what Prabhupada himself, he reminded us of Krishna at every moment. He would emphasize that over and over again. His business was to remind us of Krishna. When you think of Prabhupada, you think of Krishna. That's the idea. Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Shri